Welcome to AFD TV. I'm Dr. Steve Samidrala, and I'm here with Dr. Pam Drury, clinical neuropsychologist, and Greg Simmons. Greg is a chemical engineer by training, has done a concentration in biochemistry, and is an entrepreneur interested in bringing medical marijuana to our great state of Tennessee. So welcome, Greg.
Thank you.
Dr. Drury.
Thank you, Dr. Stan.
Thank you.
So how did you get interested in the whole marijuana field?
Well, it's a great question. I think a lot of us in our college years and undergraduate, we certainly experiment around, and I've used cannabis off and on for most of my adult life. And this last time that I've been experimenting with cannabis somewhat is at the end of a divorce, and I used cannabis as a substance to substitute with alcohol, and basically to help me in my mental flexibility in getting through depression and anxiety around my divorce.
Does alcoholism run in your family at all?
It does, yeah. My grandfather was an alcoholic, actually, in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and as well as my parents. So yeah, long string of alcoholics.
So rightfully so, you're afraid of the alcohol, but medical marijuana may be a substitute to help achieve some of the similar relaxation.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I've found is that with cannabis, it's not a perfect substitute for alcohol, but it's a pretty good substitute for alcohol. And one of the unexpected benefits with cannabis for me was the effect that you hear about cannabis in musicians and artists, about how they have an extra heightened sense of their medium. And that same phenomenon in my case with my emotions and the emotional turmoil that I was going through with the depression allowed me the flexibility to really step back and observe that and get out of it. And depression, it's kind of like a wet blanket that lays on top of you and you can't get out from under it. And cannabis actually allowed me to step back and get out from under it and to make progress slowly in my situation.
Well, wonderful. So, Dr. Drury, so what has your research and experience also been with cannabis and testing in cases like Greg's, for example?
Yeah, well, I haven't personally done research on cannabis, but I know in doing neurofeedback and quantitative EEGs, in which we can look at the different speeds of brain activity, cannabis certainly has an effect on the brain. It produces more of a slow wave activity, and it's interesting hearing you speak about the musicians, because the frequency that it produces is called alpha, and it's about 8 to 12 waves per minute. And we also do something called peak performance training with musicians, and musicians who have done this training, and we can train people to produce that same waveform that is produced by marijuana. Those musicians were rated by someone who didn't know if they had undergone the training or not as more accurate in their musical performance, more emotional in their music performance. So from what you're saying, it really seems like the medical marijuana and the neurofeedback are both ways of producing that alpha, which is associated with relaxation, creativity, sort of a relaxed, alert state.
And it seems to be fairly common in I'm as a physician here in Nashville for about 12 years, I do have a lot of musicians as patients, and I'll ask them, they said, no, I don't believe in taking pills, Dr. Sam, can you, I really don't take anything. Except for marijuana. So you've seen it where it's common, a little bit common.
Well, I think there's a long history of musicians using marijuana, and because it probably does tap into that creative state. I mean, there's a famous Jimmy Buffett song about only jazz musicians are smoking marijuana.
That's right.
So there's something to it.
Yeah, and you can see it on EEG, which is real, and I believe you're saying that it shows some of the same alpha waves that meditation can have.
That's right.
Priests can have when they're praying.
There have been studies looking at people who meditate for hours a day that learn to produce alpha. I think yoga or deep massage can produce alpha. So any of those very deep states of relaxation are associated with that very specific brain pattern.
And then also Greg is an entrepreneur who owns Massage Envy
That's
as well.
right.
So I guess it's all in that field of
That's
relaxation.
right, relaxation. That's what, growing up and again as an adult, I've always been a very type A person. And it's kind of interesting to me that at this stage of my life that I'm seeking out ways to slow that type A down.
That's right, that's right.
And, getting involved with massage and Massage Envy has been wonderful, and it's a definite great way to take the edge off that type A. And again, with marijuana, it's very beneficial in doing that.
Well, wonderful. Well, there's a lot on this topic, of course. And so what's the chances of medical marijuana being approved in Tennessee in the next 5 years?
Oh, I think pretty close to 100%.
Really?
I would say so. I'm going to step out and be bold on that. My personal prediction is that across the United States, that by 2016 presidential election, that medical marijuana will not be an issue in the 2016 presidential election.
And Colorado and Washington State probably opened the way for...
Oh, absolutely. Well, really going back, California really started to crack the door, so to speak. And with California cracking the door, it opened other states to start to experiment with medical marijuana programs, including Washington and Colorado. And what Washington and Colorado have done last year, they elected to allow not medical marijuana, but marijuana for recreational use for anyone above 21 years of age. And so it's kind of considered an experiment, but it's a very interesting experiment. From a lot of different implications, from social implications to monetary implications to medical implications. So it's a really fascinating time. One of my predictions as an entrepreneur and a consumer of this information is I believe that bracketed by 5-7 years either side of the present time, that this is going to be the most significant economic event in this period of time.
Wow, that's amazing. So, well, you're definitely on the forefront, especially in our great state of Tennessee. So that's a good thing. Well, thank you so much for watching AFD-TV.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sam.
The medical advice provided in this video is informational and strictly the opinions of Dr. Sam Mudralla and AFD Clinics. For a personalized medical opinion, please consult your primary care physician or visit one of America's family doctors' clinics today.